Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceremony, where we once again enter the warp without an astropath.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Iron and Ceremony podcast. My name is John and as always I'm joined by Tom.
Yo.
Dave.
Hello.
Shane.
Hello.
And our guide through tonight's episode, Glenn.
Hi.
Hey, Glenn.
Good.
As previously mentioned, Glenn's going to be taking us through the lore and history of the Dark Angels and anything else that he's got prepared for us. So, Glenn, I will hand over the reins to you, my friend.
Okay. Right, so for the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about some chapters that weren't strictly Codex legal. So I thought we'd look at the First Legion. They are more or less Codex legal. Like I say, the First Legion, they're the greatest chapter, and my first army and first love that got me into 40k. So they were created by the Emperor and became the template for the following legions. And they were chosen from recruits from all across Terra, where the rest of the legions, it was more they chose from specific regions or specific clans or war bands, whereas the Dark Angels brought a lot of like multicultural people together, mostly just for the genetic purity, because Terra was pretty much a radioactive wasteland at the time with loads of different genetic plagues and things that had destroyed humanity almost. So that's why the Dark Angels were the purest that they could possibly get. So they fought in the Unification Wars on Terra, and because they were the first and the strongest, they grew much quicker than the rest of the legions. When the other legions had a few hundred, the Dark Angels were up to like 10,000, and they were the original Angels of Death, which has become sort of synonymous with Space Marines in general, but it's the title first given to them. When the Great Crusades launched, they were the ones that liberated sort of the edges of the solar system and the solar system as we would know it, and then spread out towards where the rest of humanity was sort of closer to Terra. But as the other legions were bringing lots of worlds into compliance, because the Dark Angels had access to sort of dangerous technology and sort of stuff that the rest of them weren't given, they were sent against the most horrendous of forces and the most foul of Xenos. That's why their sort of compliance numbers are a little bit smaller towards the start of the Crusade, because a lot of their stuff was secretive and sort of redacted from history because of the almost foul sorceries and technologies that they used against their foes. But they were held in such high regard by the Emperor, hence why they were allowed to use that their Legion Master was his left-hand man. He was the third in charge after the Emperor and Malcador, even after they started to find some of the early Primarchs. So even after Russ was found, they still held what is essentially a Space Marine in higher esteem than one of the new found Primarchs. It was their beliefs in their own superiority, however, that eventually sort of led to a little bit of their downfall with the Legion to start with, because they didn't really recruit as much and they sort of threw themselves into battle because they thought, yeah, we're the best, that they started to get overtaken by some of the other legions. And it wasn't until that they found the Lion on Caliban, so Lionel Johnson, their Primarch, that he sort of gave them renewed purpose and renewed direction and sort of brought people together to start fighting as one sort of cohesive force rather than fighting with themselves, not physically fighting with themselves. That came a little bit later. And once they'd sort of reunited with him, he set off throughout the Great Crusade and took a couple of years and sort of gathered up all of the scattered companies and reunited them all, bringing them up to around about 100,000 strong force. so they could fight as one cohesive army. So they recruited from Caliban to start with, which is where the lion was from. There was pretty much a death world, lots of forests, lots of big gribbly monsters that the lion and the knightly orders had gone around and pretty much eradicated by the time the emperor came. And the younger knights in the orders were inducted into the Dark Angels, but the older ones were genetically enhancement surgery, bringing them up to not quite Space Marine levels, but enabled them to still fight for the Legion at the time, even though they weren't quite, they weren't in power armor and they weren't all buffed up like a normal Space Marine would be.
Glenn, one thing I would ask, with regards to Caliban, was it touched by chaos or some sort of chaotic powers? I remember hearing about that. I wasn't sure if that was true or not.
They allude to the beasts of Caliban being chaos beasts, but I don't think it's outrightly stated that they are. It's sort of like rumored that there was a touch of chaos on the planet, but it's not listed like as a chaotic planet. It's just a death world with horrendous creatures on it. But there is some stuff that happens on the planet. You kind of go, yeah, there's some chaos involvement in there at some point.
Cool, man. It'd be good to hear more about that in the future, maybe if they go more into detail about it.
Right. So the first that got the sort of the surgical enhancements was Lionel Johnson's number one guy, a guy by the name of Luther. He was the guy that found the lion and raised him from basically a little infant that was found roaming the forests, somehow survived all these chaotic creatures that had been plaguing the local town's population. And he brought him into the order, which was the knightly order that Luther was part of. The lion grew quickly through that order until he eventually took command of it and subsequently united all of Caliban after sort of like his own mini Great Crusade across the planet, basically killing all these beasts of Caliban. But Luther, once he got his enhancements, he was pretty much dispatched from the Great Crusade back to Caliban with a load of other Dark Angels to what the Lion decided was to guard the planet and to sort of help with the training and the development of new recruits that were coming through. But Luther and the other Dark Angels found this to be like a massive slight on their honor, and that begun the ill feeling that would eventually result in the fall of the Dark Angels after the Great Crusade. But before that, as the Dark Angels were a huge army and they were taking part in the Great Crusade, they were scattered all across the galaxy. They were fighting on many, many fronts. So they weren't massively aware of what was happening. And once the heresy actually erupted, they were quite unaware to start with. And when they tried to gather up to come back, Horus had dispatched the Night Lords to try and ambush them, but they were basically stopped in their ambush because of the tactical genius of the Lion, and he managed to destroy most of the fleet that was sent to them and escape the trap, basically. But before they could return to Terra, the ruin storm that I think it was the Word Bearers had unleashed that sort of covered the galaxy and made star travel pretty much impossible. The only way they could find anywhere was to stop at Ultramar. And this is where they thought that, crap, the Emperor's fallen, there is no anymore. So they set up the Imperial Secundus, which is the second coming of the Imperium, around Ultramar with Gulliman and Sanguinius. But after Sanguinius got a nice little vision, he was able to tell them that, nope, the Emperor's still alive, we can make it back to Terra. So the 3 legions started to make their way to Terra, with the Blood Angels heading straight there. There's the Dark Angels and the Ultramarines. They were the ones that done sort of like hit and run attacks on the blockade, tried to draw off some of the Chaos forces. The Dark Angels themselves attacked several of the home planets of the Traitor Legions with the hope of drawing some of the forces away to allow the Blood Angels to get through. When the Dark Angels arrived in the Sol system, along with the Ultramarines and the Space Wolves, it was then that Horus had decided that, right, it's now or never, and it sort of forced his hand into basically the battle with the Emperor. So it's when he lowered his shields, drove the Emperor on, and they had their battle. That's pretty much well covered by lots of other people. With the Emperor being stuck on the Golden Throne now, the Dark Angels then returned to Caliban after the heresy, and that's when the fall occurred. So as they arrived at Caliban, all the planetary defenses sort of opened up on the Lion's ship and the accompanying fleet, and they were thinking, what the hell? So they basically had to assault their own planet, which wasn't held by a massive army, but it's pretty much all of the Dark Angels that had sent back to Caliban, plus a lot of new recruits that had come through the system, had essentially fallen to chaos. So the Lion went down, driven absolutely mad by the fact that Luther had betrayed him, and they ended up having a duel very similar to how the Emperor had to duel Horus, his favorite son. The Lion had to do the same with Luther, all the while that a chaos storm erupted around the planet, along with the entire fleet bombarding the crap out of the planet. So as the planet itself came apart, the Lion and Luther had their battle. The Lion was unfortunately mortally wounded by Luther, but at that point, Luther realized what he'd done, how wrong he was, and his mind snapped and he went insane. So none of the rest of the Dark Angels knew that the Lion had fallen to this extent, and he was taken by these unknown creatures called the Watchers in the Dark, and he's currently in the bottom of the rock, which is what was left of their fortress monastery, the only bit of Caliban to survive, because it was held intact by the void shields that defended it from planetary assault, basically.
Got a question just regarding when he had his fight with Luther. Obviously, Luther being not a space marine, him being a Primarch, I'm assuming it was a similar situation, like you say, with Horus, where he was driven, like, I don't know, insanely powerful by the Chaos Gods and all that? Or?
Yeah, he was basically enhanced by chaotic power. That was the only way he would have stood any chance. But again, it's similar. Like, the Emperor didn't give everything into attacking Horus because he didn't want to. Same with the Lion. He didn't want to have to do this to Luther, but he ended up doing it. So, like I say, both of them are in the bowels of the rock, which is their giant floating fortress monastery that the Dark Angels essentially became more or less a fleet-based chapter, resulting in them having loads of different recruiting worlds, overall home world, and they added massive warp engines to this, what is now essentially a ship. So they've got a monastery that flies around space, which is just as 40k as it gets.
Yeah.
So that is basically the fall, with the addition that as the chaos storm erupted around Caliban, as the planet came apart, it sucked up all of the traitorous Dark Angels and spread them across the galaxy. And now in the 41st millennium, even now, the Dark Angels and all of their successor chapters are hunting for these fallen because they don't want the secret to get out that some of them fell to chaos. It's a massively kept secret that only limited people know. Not even everyone in the Dark Angels knows. And as you get further up the ranks, they give you a little bit more information, a little bit more information. It's almost like a Scientology cult.
Is that the same with the successor chapters? So do all of the successor chapters know that there are fallen out there? Or is it any specific sort of chapter masters or...
It's the same with the successor chapters. And the Dark Angels themselves, the basic guys know they're after someone specific. They don't know why. The higher ups know it's a fallen Dark Angel. The higher ups again know the story of the fall of Caliban. So, yeah, there's not an overall general knowledge.
We are doing this. Shut the fuck up and don't ask any questions.
More or less, yeah. For the lower guys.
Are the fallen like in hiding, or do they sort of pop up and do stuff as Dark Angels, and no one knows the difference?
No, they have fallen to chaos. Generally speaking, they are bad guys. They are not. It's not sort of like, oh, they're a Dark Angel. It's they're basically a Chaos Marine now, right. But they're not. They're not quite chaos though.
Are they Chaos Undivided, or have they got a specific god that they whatever?
I'm pretty sure they're undivided, but you may have individuals that would give themselves over to a specific god. But as a overall rule, yeah, they pretty much be classified as undivided. There are stories, however, I can't remember where I've read this one, but there was basically, there has been other fallen that have sort of repented of their ways, not the ones that have been captured by the Dark Angels, and just gone on to live sort of like a peaceful, quiet life. I really wish I could remember the story that it was, but there was essentially a giant man that has been living on this planet for years and years, and eventually was captured by the Dark Angels because he was a fallen Dark Angel, but he was living amongst the population. He wasn't evil, he wasn't chaotic, he just was sort of almost remorseful of the fact that he had fallen. It was quite a good story. If I could ever remember it, and I'll try and dig it out for the rest of you guys, but I have no idea where it is now.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. Do the fallen fight in war bands, or do they scurry around individually, try not to get captured?
Scurry?
Both. Yeah, both. You've got some that will fight as part of larger sort of Chaos Marine incursions, or you've got others that will just be individuals doing their own nefarious things. It's a good question. The most common, the most popular, or the most well known is Cypher. He was sort of a high ranking official in the original Dark Angels Legion. He was not specifically one person, it was an honorary title that was bestowed upon a certain person, but once he became Cypher, he gave up his name, his identity. He is literally just a name. So the Cypher that is running around the galaxy may be the same guy, may not be the same guy. He is someone who is just Cypher. He carries with him the sword that Lionel Johnson used in the final battle with Luther, and sort of runs around firing two pistols and very Matrix-like. But it's very cool. There's a lot of background on him. You could do an entire podcast on him.
So it's Cypher's fallen, did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but he is with the newer fluff and background. He is one of the reasons why Gulliman is awake now, because basically he was bouncing around the galaxy doing all these things for his own purpose. Sometimes he would be almost helping the Imperium, sometimes he would be fighting against them, and he's the one fallen that the Dark Angels would give anything to get their hands on, but they've never been able to. I have no idea what it's like.
Why him specifically?
Because he was such a high-ranking person. He was basically one of the inner circle of the Dark Angels. He knows all of their lore. He knows all of their secrets. He is the man, basically.
And plus, he's
but
got
it's just
the lion sword.
Yeah, and he's just a colossal pain in the ass because he pops up and he's almost been captured so many times, but things always conspire against them that he's always able to escape. He's almost destined to just never be captured.
Are there other chapters that are sort of aware of the Fallen or any other sort of characters in the lore, or is it literally just Dark Angels know of it, or has some have been sort of spread out and people are just sort of sworn to secrecy?
As far as I'm aware, it's only the Dark Angels are aware of it, and obviously their successor chapters, they keep it very much in-house. There's been several times when the Inquisition have had a little look at some of their things, and the Inquisition has mysteriously disappeared.
That's a lot of Space Wolves.
Yeah, quite similar. So there's nobody outside of the chapters that are the Unforgiven chapters, so the Dark Angels and all their successors, that is aware of the Fallen. Because the Dark Angels and the successor chapters will leave battles once they hear of like even just one random Fallen in the area, and they will completely abandon a war just to go after this guy.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I was going to ask actually, is that because that has led to in more modern times, right? Or I say more modern times, more up to date in terms of the Imperium. It's kind of their chase for the Fallen has made them seem a bit inconsistent with other chapters, right? Because they will just leave war zones to go and do something that other chapters would look at as really random, right?
Yeah, and because the other chapters don't know about the reason that they are going to do it, then they just think, what the hell? They just left us here with their dick in their hand going, fuck. So yeah, they're sort of viewed with a bit of suspicion, and the fact that they're sort of very stoic and very above everybody else as well. They believe that their way of doing things is the right way of doing things. So they're not the most popular of chapters in general. But then again, they're not sort of bloodthirsty maniacs, so they're viewed as saviors still whenever they generally will arrive.
I've got something in the back of my head, and I don't know, I think it might have been from my research for the other pods, but has their hunt for the Fallen put them in sort of direct conflict with other chapters where, for example, another chapter's captured someone and they're like, hand them over?
I think it has, but it's not. It's one of those things that I've read this somewhere, but I'm not sure if it's an official source or if it's, a little bit of background from, a bit of fan fiction or something. But I'm sure it probably has happened on more than one occasion where they've either, wanted someone as a prisoner, or, they've just sort of departed from a battle or randomly rocked up and gone, yep, we're here now, don't worry about it, we're gonna fight this guy now. And it's probably pissed off a few different commanders. So that sort of brings us up to the modern day. So currently their Grand Master is a guy called Azrael. He's been the Grand Master of the Dark Angels for quite a while. He's one of the few that knows everything, and it takes getting elevated to that level where you find out all of the little secrets. They're, like I said earlier, they are pretty much a Codex compliant army, apart from their first company, which is known as the Deathwing. They exclusively fight in Terminator armor. They have no Vanguard vets, Stern Guard vets, none of that. They are exclusively a Terminator army. They don't use the same colors as the rest of the chapter. They are a bone color as opposed to the majority of the rest of them being a dark green, and that is because of in memory of a single squad of Terminators that liberated a planet from a Gene Stealer invasion. The only other thing that makes them non-codex compliant is their second company, which is the Raven Wing. They fight in black armor, which is the original Dark Angels pre-heresy color scheme. They are exclusively bike land speeder mounted. They are a very fast strike force, and it is the Deathwing and the Raven Wing that are responsible for basically bringing the Fallen in. So they are the ones that hunt the Fallen. That's why very often Dark Angels aren't deployed on a company basis. They're deployed with generally a squad of Deathwing and a squad of Raven Wing with other aspects of different companies, because there's always the chance that they will be needed in the hunt for the Fallen. So every deployment, there's somebody capable of bringing in the Fallen.
So when they do bring the Fallen in, what do they do with them?
So they then get taken to the Rock, which is still floating around the galaxy, and they are dealt with by the Interrogator Chaplains. So the Dark Angels have an awful lot of chaplains in their chapter. They are the ones that are to try and get the Fallen to repent for turning away from the Imperium and falling to chaos. But over the years, even the greatest of Interrogator Chaplains have only managed to get folk to repent. By repenting, you get a quick death. By obviously choosing to side with chaos, you'll pretty much be tortured until you die or until you repent.
Best choose Slanesh then, because then you won't mind the torture. You're going to hold out for a while.
Well, some of the weapons they use to inflict the torture,
yeah,
the most notable is the Blade of Reason. Essentially, every cut from that inflames every nerve throughout your body. They've changed the rules in game a little bit, but like previous editions, it used to be you take a wound, you're pretty much incapacitated because the rest of your nervous system is just on fire with the amount of pain going through your body that you can't really do much.
Nice.
And I was a little bit annoyed because I was doing my research on these. They seem to have changed the name of the chief chaplain. I was so annoyed that I didn't even write down who it is now. It used to be Asmodai, and that was, I had that model. He was a chaplain. He had a massive sword in one hand and a crow's ace in the other hand. But now it was somebody else, and it made me just go, oh, I've taken out an awesome character, because he had a nice bit of background. They spent a bit of time with him, and then they just go, nope, somebody else now.
I think it's Saffron. I think that's
it's something like that. Yeah. I think he does. Yeah, he's got a model, I think. But
what do Games Workshop usually do? If they change a character, do they just literally go, oh, not happy with him anymore, take him out, and he just disappears and another one comes in? Or are they always built up in the lore of being killed off or something happening and legitimately someone else coming to replace that character? Or do they just disappear?
Well, you've got it in your army as well. You've got Tycho.
Yeah, who's dead. Like, yeah, I still play with them,
yeah,
but yeah.
They go about it different ways. Sometimes they kill them off in storyline. Sometimes they just disappear. Because the Dark Angels used to have a scout sergeant as well. It was Na'an, I think it was something like that. He's just a random scout sergeant, but he's not been in the past couple of codexes. He used to have a model and everything, and now he's just nothing. Yeah. So I haven't read anything to say that Asmodai isn't around, but I've not read the most recent codex, so I don't know why the chief chaplain is now this other bloke.
John will tell us. He's got the codex behind him.
Don't involve him.
You want me to read it now? We'll be here for a while.
Just have a look if Asmodai is in it.
Have a look to see whether the data sheet's in there.
Okay. Well, it just says here, so Asmodai is the Dark Angel's most successful interrogator chaplain, relentless and humorless. In battle, he incites his battle brothers, fighting spirits to reach new heights, rendering them unstoppable killing machines by chanting his litanies of hate with unshakable belief.
So is that sort of similar to the way, I'm assuming, because with the Blood Angels, you've got two well-known chaplains, one that takes care of the Death Company and obviously Astaroth himself. So maybe they just wanted sort of two main figurehead chaplains.
Possibly.
Similar to that.
Because I think the Dark Angels, like in the Codex, you've got, or it used to be anyway, you had interrogator chaplains and then you had chaplains. And the interrogator chaplains were responsible for making the fallen repent, whereas the chaplains were to look after the spiritual well-being of the rest of the chapter. So yeah, they've obviously just added in an extra bloke. Probably so they can sell an extra model.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where
it's
are
all
the
about the money?
Where are the Dark Angels now? What are they up to? Just going around looking for the Fallen, or are they actually sort of engaged in a campaign?
They generally are never specifically on a crusade or a hunt for Fallen. That's always sort of like a background thing. So they are usually just on normal campaigns, doing good, defending humanity, saving the Imperium. But
until they find a Fallen and then fuck off
until they
leave them to get fucked up and
yeah, pretty much. Even a Ruber is enough for them to dispatch like was essentially a capture team. So yeah.
So other than the Fallen themselves, who is their sort of biggest nemesis? Do you know in the Warhammer 40k world now, as it stands, or has it been over the years?
I don't really know if they have one. They don't. There's nothing really sticks out. It's one of those things where it's just sort of been like they're always there, and the Fallen are what they're really after. But
yeah,
you've got different chapters that have specific rivalries with, like the Blood Angels. They really hate the Orcs because of Armageddon, but the Dark Angels don't really have sort of that one defining, that is the enemy, that's the classic battle, them versus somebody else.
Because I know in some of the heresy books there was a few battles with, like you say, you alluded to earlier, the Night Lords, and obviously the Primarchs didn't get on well. But like you say, I've not heard a lot in modern day of them fighting each other. But
no, yeah, it's just the Night Lords and them had a thing because they were dispatched to try and stop the Dark Angels. There was nothing specific, nobody liked the Night Lords Primarch. He'd a row with most people, but yeah, they don't have like sort of one defining enemy.
Which makes sense, really, if they're going to be hunting the Fallen all the time, who obviously are sort of a Chaos Warband themselves, aren't they? So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And what are the Watchers? What the fuck are they?
Nobody knows. It's the honest answer.
Okay.
There isn't really a massive answer to it. They are just these little robed people, creatures, something that look after various bits and pieces on the rock. No one's seen them without their robes. They don't know what's underneath the robes. It might just be a sentient robe for all people know.
But is that law, or is it sort of like the chapter marshals know who they are, and it's sort of someone knows who they are, or is it literally no one knows what the fuck they are?
I think nobody really knows what they are. They've always just been helpful to Dark Angels. They were part of, like, pre-heresy. They were kicking around on Caliban. But unless anybody else knows something more than I do, yeah, they've always just been this little dude in robes. You can never see a face in the darkness on the robes. They could be a chaotic creature. They could be, you know, something more, something less.
It popped up in Descent of Angels right at the beginning when before he's even a proper knight. What's his name? Zahara. Zahara.
Zahara. Yeah, that's
yeah.
it,
He's going to find his great beast, the lion, or this lion to kill, and then when he's going through some rank, nurgly-looking bit of forest, they sort of appear and they want to kill him just because they say he's got the touch of chaos about him, but he convinces them otherwise, and they sort of say, all right, off you go then. And he goes and finds the lion, but that's about...
He's a librarian. Well, he's a Cypher, so it's when they say he's got the touch of chaos, it's very much about, you know, it's the touch of the warp, and it's kind of, as said, it's never stated explicitly, but you know, in some degree, they're potentially warp sensitive, or they're linked to that. But as Glenn was saying, it's kind of like, I think they've been very specifically left incredibly vague, so that you don't. It's purposely like that. So you know, are they warp touched? Are they Xenos? Are they, as I said, like just Oompa Loompas fucking around? No, yeah, they're squats. No one knows. Like,
Hi, Dave. Hi, Dave.
I know he's back.
And do they have models? So can you actually play as Watchers, or
There are models.
Tom's
got
Tom's
one.
a model.
Tom's got one.
yeah, but are they tabletop, or are they literally just sort of?
I think they're tabletop. I think you can take them.
They are essentially tokens.
Yeah.
They don't interact with anything.
So they're decorative rather than
More or less,
actual playable. Yeah.
They must have
they give you
something.
buffs,
Usually, like,
don't they? So,
yeah,
like,
they must have something.
you get like a save. They're like a familiar. So they don't attack or anything, but they might give you an extra attack or a saving throw. It's like what's his name? Gazgol's pal, the little orc.
Oh, Makari, is it?
Yeah.
Something
He
like
comes
that.
along, he just gives him like an extra attack or whatever. He doesn't do anything. It's the same with the Watchers.
I can't remember what the ones with the Deathwing do, but the one that goes along with Azrael holding the helmet, it used to be the helmet give off force field, and you measured from the dude holding the helmet, like a sort of like a 5-inch bubble or whatever. It's probably changed because that is 2nd edition codex. So yeah, a little while back.
Get the codex, John. Let's check it. I'm joking.
The rest of this episode is going to be me reading from the codex. So sit down, be quiet, and let's begin with rules.
The one last thing that I have as well is what causes a lot of controversy and a lot of memes, and is the fact that there's a huge belief out there amongst hobbyists that the side of Dark Angels that fail is not the Fallen. There's a lot of people, me included, because I like to poke the bear sometimes, that say that the lion was the one that fell. Luther is actually loyal to the Emperor, and the reason that the Dark Angels at the minute are hunting the Fallen is because they know the truth, and the actual current Dark Angels are secretly have fallen to chaos. So there you go. That'll
I could buy that.
piss off a lot of people.
On the very little that I know, only from reading one book, but like the lion's very quick to, he was very jealous very quickly, which is always a sign of someone's a bit bad. Obviously, always outshining Luther before they ascended and stuff. And then very obviously sort of we don't really know, but obviously there was that little incident where Luther could have let this bomb go off that would have killed the lion and then changed his mind. And then they went on this mission, and then he suddenly sends everybody who packing, even the ones who were quite loyal. So I could buy that he was a bit of a dick.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people, if you're not a Dark Ages player and know a Dark Ages player, it's one of those things that people like to go, but which side fell? It's like, shut up. It's obvious. But it's one of those things that it's another one of the things that Games Workshop know is out there, but they will never 100% clear up all of the kind of the little, did they? No. It'll be a mystery forever.
That's one of their main things, isn't it? With the Dark Angels, that mysterious sort of aura around them. So
I'm hearing a lot of stuff about sort of rumors, talking about rumors and things like that. That the next Primarch to come back could be the Lion himself.
Well, he is one of the easiest of the loyalists to bring back. He is just asleep in a dungeon.
Loyalists.
Yes. Well, yeah, he is just asleep in a dungeon. Depending on what sources you look at, some of the top Dark Angels know he's there, or none of them know he's there, and it's literally just the Watchers in the Dark that know he's there and are looking after him until he's ready to wake up. I think possibly the only person that actually knows he's there is Cypher.
Wasn't Luther there as well?
Luther is basically in a prison down there, but the upper echelons of the Dark Angels, they know he's there because they've gone and spoken to him, and sometimes he's perfectly coherent, other times he's a gibbering mess that just spouts nonsense. But yeah.
So one day the Lion could just walk out in a fluffy robe and some slippers.
Yeah, just
scare the shit out of.
Yeah. Like I say, he is just there. So, like they can pretty much wake him up whenever they want.
I think it'd be cool to get another Primarch.
I think the game,
a few more loyalists.
It'd be nice to have the balance of having at least 4 aside. Because whenever they do the inevitable Angron and nipple twisty one, Fulgrim, there we go.
Fulgrim, yeah.
Yeah, whenever they get their Demon Primarch models, same as Mortarion and Magnus, then it makes sense that the Imperium will get at least a couple more to sort of balance up the numbers. And I really would like to see the Lion, because he would be proper, imposing, stoic, knightly. It should be a really good model whenever they bring it up.
Yeah.
He'd be good.
His Forge World model is pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of the ones that really makes me go, yep, they've nailed that one. Really nice.
He'd be well placed against Gilliman as well, because obviously before the heresy or pre-heresy and stuff like that, the Lion was very much well above Gilliman in the pecking order. So if he woke back up and came back to the Imperium, like one of the theories would be that he'd be like, what the fuck is this? And start doing his own thing.
Sit down, child. I'm taking over.
Effectively, at the moment, Gilliman's the Lord Commander of the Imperium, through the sake of he's the only one. If the Lion comes back, who back then would have been, like, he was talked as on the same level as Horus as to who would be the War Master. For him to come back and be like, well, I'm not listening to, bloody Rabute about this. He, back in the day, he was the dunce. Like, I'm not having that. It'll be a real interesting, character to bring back and see what it does to the Imperium.
Yeah, I do like their interactions in the Heresy books as well. It's in Unremembered Empire. You've got a long way to go with your books, but whenever Gilliman's setting up the second Imperium, but he doesn't want to take command himself, he is essentially waiting for another Primarch to come. The first one that arrives is the Lion, And Gulliman's reaction is basically, fuck, not him. But yeah, it's the Lion was sort of one of the best. Basically not the best swordsman or the best at any one specific thing, but he was a massively, massively powerful all-rounder. Any further questions, gentlemen?
I think that's it.
What's your favourite Dark Angels bit of lore then, or book?
I've not had the best of luck with books. I'm not going to lie. Especially not the heresy ones. I've not read an awful lot of the newer, sort of more recent, even the past couple of editions and stuff. I like the overall background of the stuff in the codex. They're interesting that way, but like I've not read a Dark Angels novel that's really sort of grabbed me and gone, yep, that's why I like them. I just like them for their background. The one model that I still have from the Dark Ages is Ezekiel, the Master Librarian. He's just such an old model. He's such a nice model that I bought him a couple of different times. The most recent, just to paint him. Haven't done it yet, but he's yes, Tom. I bought a model specifically to paint.
But what it would doing the research for this, does it make you feel like collecting that army again or coming back to your first army? Oh,
come on. Every time I do research for every one of our pods, it makes me go, oh shit, I want to do that. Yeah. It's like whenever I was listening to Shane talk about the Space Wolves, oh Jesus, I nearly had to go and get the Space Wolves out of the attic just to sort of look at and go, yep, I'm going to redo them, going to touch that up, going to make them a bit better. Doing the Dark Ages stuff, I was like, oh, why did I start painting those bloody Marines as Crimson Fists? You know, it's just, plus you could buy Dark Ages green spray. It's just, bit of trim, done. You know, but no, I will resist. I may get some of the characters and paint them whatever. They'll just be blue Dark Angels or red Dark Angels or whatever. But that's what I'll end up doing that with all the chapters. I'll have one unified color across the army, and every special character painted as that color scheme, and then I can use whatever codex I fancy.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually, because you can always say they're a successor chapter even if you wanted to, couldn't you?
Yeah. I was like, I don't give a toss what color armies are. If I wanted to use those rules, as long as you're clear across the board with what you're actually representing, doesn't matter what color they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm definitely going to look up some more Dark Angels stuff. I think there's a few little interesting points in there, definitely. So yeah, cheers for that, Glenn. And
that's quite all right.
Very much.
Well done for going into all that research as well. 4 pages full of notes.
Bad fun at all.
Yeah.
True hero of the Dark Angels, Glenn. Right, so thank you for listening. Thank you again, Glenn, for that. And please look us up. If you stick Iron and Ceramite into your search engine, you can find us on Instagram, and then you can follow our individual accounts on there to keep up to date with everything we're doing. Come join us on Facebook and Twitter as well, Iron and Ceramite. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, share with your friend, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We're on all good podcast services where if you don't want to look at our handsome faces, you can just listen to our wonderful voices. We've got a Twitch. We'll try and get that up and running some more. And if you want to support the channel and help us out by up the tech and bring a bit more variety to the channel, then we do have a Patreon. And again, if you want to get your hobby supplies, no extra cost to you, but get yourself a discount, then use our link, Tell Element Games, that we sent you, and we'll get a bit of a kickback for that. And if you want to try and knock our current clan leader off the top, then join us on combat cards at Iron and Ceramite, and let's take the little smile off of Shane's face as he's sitting there. And thank you very much for joining us. And that is Exterminatus. See you later.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, I actually borrowed my mate's Dark Angels Codex. I've read a whole page in 3 weeks. So if
The front cover doesn't count as a whole page, John.
What about the back?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, there you go.
It's still a proper, probably a faster rate of reading that than your actual death. All right.
yeah, I read more in that in the 3 weeks than I have my own. It's not. Won't get into that here though. Cool. Good. So we are, as discussed before, going to talk about the Dark Angels on this episode. Glenn's going to. What's going on?
I don't know.
Tom just started giggling for some reason. It just sets me off. Yeah, you.
When the camera went back to Glenn, because he's so close up to the camera now, and he's got that burn, it looks like he's been furiously masturbating. I don't know, it just popped into my head. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Do that again.
Right. I think the intro is fine. Okay, so as we mentioned, Glenn's going to be taking us through some lore and history of the Dark Angels. Fucking hell, Tom.
Sorry, honestly. I'm really sorry. Oh, go on, go for it. Go. It's just the anticipation of seeing Glenn pop up on the screen again. Go on.
You know, just fucking mute yourself while we grown-ups talk about things.
I'm done. I'm done.
Giggle in the background.
Turn around for 20 minutes. Naughty.
I'm done.
Okay.
I don't believe you.
Right, so third time's a charm.
Well, so for the past few podcasts, we've been talking about some Space Marine chapters that haven't been strictly Codex legal. So I thought we'd go with the first Legion, the best Legion, and my first army, which is, like you say, the Dark Angels. So they were the first one created by the Emperor, and they served as the template for the legions to come, because they were the most genetically pure. Who is fucking rustling? That was really annoying.
I itched my nose.
I think that was John.
I've been saying I just itched my nose.
I could hear something like going like.
It was me opening a sweet, probably. I didn't think it was so loud.
His jar of old man sweets in front of him. Then the light, not that it really matters really, but every time you move your head, the light sort of takes over your screen. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I might actually turn it off.
Just for the visual.
Oh my god.
It's like we are going to have an all-nighter.
I think you should turn the light off and put a hood on as well, so proper like Dark Angel it up.
Yeah.
He hasn't got his headphones in. Say again.
A bit better.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's good. Right. We'll go back to as I've handed the reins over to you.
Oh, fuck's sake. Have you opened all your sweets you're going to want?
Yes, that's the last one I got left, actually, which is annoying. I can still rustle the wrapper, though. I'll keep it here just in case.
What? So I'm just starting then?
Yeah. I'll edit. Don't worry.
Okay.
Well, we'll pause, and then there'll be a jump, and we'll start again. Remind me of the guy's name. Asmodeus. Asmodee.
Esmeralda.
Asmodee.
The vowels.
It'll be in the elite section, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Might be HQ.
Oh yeah, or HQ. Yeah.
Just insert some lift music here. He's
I
still
don't know
there.
what that was.
Still exists.
Oh, he's there. He's not
There we go.
listed as the chief chaplain. Oh, interesting.
Quickly just shout out the guy who lent me that. Angels of Azariel on Instagram. Go and follow him for some cool Dark Angels.
Is that Angels of Azrael?
What did I say?
No, it's definitely Azariel.
If you've been watching this, and you guys know, I can't pronounce anything in these bloody books. Like, it's not going to change.
Yeah, the Dark Angels are a tough chapter for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some interesting names.
Cool. But yeah, go figure it out. He's on my Instagram. Listen to how Shane said it, and I will give you a codex back. Thanks for lending it to me. Carry on.